And you don't seem to. Ah, Serial Experiments Lain. It's probably one of the best anime I've ever seen. Yeah, I bet you guys didn't know I'm one of those filthy weeaboos. Lain is a show that makes you feel like you're losing your mind. Unfortunately, I've come to appreciate losing my mind as of late. I used to fear it, but now it's become somewhat of a pleasant pastime. Basically, this show follows a young girl named Lain as she interacts with her family and classmates, as well as entities from something called The Wired, a pretty obvious stand-in for the internet. It's become really popular lately, with everyone being on their darn screens all the time and with new AI scandals every fucking week. What a world. Lain is like... How do I even describe this show? It's like...
What, Nika?
It's kinda...
Yeah!
It's genius, but it's insanity. It's a profound piece of art, but it's also campy as hell. Especially the dub.
Lain, you know who I'm talking about. Your little imaginary friend. Or something like that.
Lain is kind of this revered character on the internet, with people making edits of her, memeing her, the 9/11 broadcast.
But what not as many people know, though, is that Lain actually had her own game for the PlayStation. It was forgotten about pretty much immediately.
See, Lain was originally conceived to be a multimedia experience, spanning across an anime, games, and manga. And funny enough, the game was actually written first, although the anime was the first to be released. And you can tell, because the game has a vastly different art style from the show. I think for a long time, the multimedia aspect of it was really just overshadowed by the anime.
Personally, if I had to make a recommendation, I would say to start with the game. Just because it's more cryptic that way.
Like, you put your name in, and then this girl just suddenly appears in this weird cyberspace thing all by herself. So, that's Lain? I guess so. Hi, Lain. In this main menu thing, she just kinda looks at you and hurtles little modules at you. All the while, there's this mind-numbing music playing on loop. The gameplay, if you can really call it that, is just digging through audio and sometimes video files. These slowly reveal the story, and there's little links, if you will, that let you jump around files with related topics. If you're familiar with the game Immortality that came out a few years ago, yeah, it was definitely inspired by the Lain game. The story follows Lain and her therapy sessions with a woman named Toko. Lain just kinda seems like this weird 12-year-old who has nightmares or hallucinations or something. She's tormented by thoughts that she's sick and unlike everyone else, and Toko tries over and over again to make her feel like she's just a normal kid. Lain has an absolute terror of being different from everyone else. Lain's concerns are kinda justified. She starts talking about hearing voices in the telephone lines and being beckoned to come back to herself. But as her therapy sessions continue, she starts to seem more interested in Toko's life than in her own problems. She becomes obsessed with psychology, and it's slowly revealed that Lain doesn't just want to know Toko, she wants to be deeply connected to her. She wants to be inside her mind. The Toko-Lain relationship is really interesting, especially for one that isn't even in the show. Yes, spoiler alert, there's no Toko in the anime, but there is Lain's school friend Alice, who ends up playing a pretty similar role. You'll see later. There's a weird tension between Lain and Toko, because Toko keeps asking to be assigned a different client, but when she sees Lain face to face, she says that she sees her like a little sister. And Lain looks up to Toko, but she also looks down on her. She sees right through her. And while all that's going on, Lain gets sick and has to stay home from school for a while, so her dad gets her a computer to do her classes online. And it's at this point that Lain discovers the wonders of the internet.
Computer? 友達? そんなこと考えたこともないよ.
She revels in the idea that she can be anonymous on the net, and that she's on the same footing as everyone else. She's also exposed to some pretty wild shit, like shock images in her email and Of course, porn. Lain also finds a user called Mr. Rabbit who teaches her how to hack and leads her down the rabbit hole.
Will I ever escape the Alice in Wonderland references?
So the thing about the Lain game is, for a while it kind of just feels like a whole lot of meandering. And so does the show, a little bit. But with the game, the story isn't even told in chronological order, it just jumps around a bunch. So you don't really know what it's building to right up until the end of the game. I think that could definitely turn some people off. But when shit goes there in this game, the therapy sessions start to become about Toko, and Lain becomes the therapist. Lain starts to get in Toko's brain, and she takes on this dark personality. Toko also takes a special interest in Lain beyond counseling, and starts having the same hallucinations as her.
なんてバカなの、トウコ。誰か私に話しかけてる。そんなはずないわ。今は誰もいないもの。私よ。トウコ。
You know, this game came out at the end of the 90s, so I was very surprised when Toko suggested in one of her files that Lain might have depersonalization. The reason that was so surprising is depersonalization still isn't a very commonly known or well-researched condition to this day, and it's also something that I've I think that if something ruins your life, you are destined to remain forever in a delicate dance with it. For me, it's a dance in which I feel like a machine watching people and thinking, why are they doing that? Being severed from the greater body, the scariest solo act I've ever done. I can't even dance with myself because despite the fact that I've been keeping myself alive, I don't exist. And then halfway through, I wake up, peeking behind the curtain and seeing something I'm not supposed to see in sober daily life. And not in a cool Matrix way that makes you want to see what's behind the curtain, but in a fucking horrifying way that makes me feel inhuman, like a pair of eyes hooked up to a computer. It's a bizarre game and I'm always commenting on it, but never really playing it. We don't even have control over our perception of our reality. It's the hardware of our brains, and we can't help but make it a religion, whatever our truth may be. It's a dream that I know will come to an end eventually, but sometimes I'm surprised by how the same dream just keeps going. And that's the story. The end.
I'm real. I've just got to be real. I'm alive, aren't I? I'm here. I'm here right now. Why is this happening to me? I don't understand it. What was it that went so terribly wrong? I always tried not to say anything weird that would arouse the slightest suspicion. Could it possibly be true? Am I not supposed to have a body? Is that why all this is happening?
But there's a far more disturbing subplot to get into. So, in the game's version of the story, Lain's parents allegedly split up. But it's more like Lain's dad just kind of mysteriously goes missing. Lain was really close to her dad, and he was the one that got her into computers. So, how do I say this? Lain recreates her dad as an AI deepfake and then starts building him a robotic body.
Now, why didn't I think of that?
She literally has a little house built so that she can keep her Frankendad a secret and visit him in private.
男の人の熱い胸に肌を重ねていると照れくさいけど、でも心のどこかですごく気持ちいいって感じている。お父さんの手で私の体を隅々まで触ってもらう。本当のお父さんとはこんなことしてないのに。
I have an idea. What if, for the rest of the video, We pretend like that didn't happen.
でもその間に腕や足のパーツを少しずつ運んだから、そんなに非効率ではなかったかな。
I like how this link just says, oh my god, like, yeah, me too.
So I think from here on out, it's going to be pretty hard to explain everything without the context of the show. So please consume the Lain media. Media.
The show starts with one of Lain's classmates committing suicide. Lain becomes interested in The Wired after seemingly receiving an email from said dead classmate. Her ghost follows her around and tells her how good it is to not have a body. Then a bunch of weird shit happens, and it turns out that Lain isn't actually a person. She's a living program created by this guy named Ari, who uploaded himself into The Wired and let his physical body die. He manipulated Lain so that she would bridge the gap between reality and The Wired, essentially merging all of human consciousness. This was called Protocol 7. Ari has this group of religious followers called the Knights, who made Lain see her dead classmate to coax her into completing the merge. The Knights want transcendence of the body's borders and into the Jungian collective unconscious. Also, there's two versions of Lain. Real-world Lain and the Lain of the Wired. Lain's only real friend is a girl named Alice. When Protocol 7 is executed, Lain integrates everyone except for Alice, because she already felt connected to her. But this means that Alice is the only one aware of the terrifying reality that Lain is basically God and can control everyone's consciousness.
You're a program? But that's insane!
Oh no, not just me, Alice. You and everyone else were all just applications. The truth is, you don't need bodies.
You are wrong. It feels like your body's cold, but you're alive, Lain. Here, give me your hand. I'm alive too. You see? My heart. Beating. Beating.
Beating, beating,
Beating, beating, beating.
But why? Why is it beating?
Because I'm scared. It's pounding because I'm scared.
But how could you be? You're smiling, Alice.
Yeah, I guess I am. But inside I'm really scared. I've always been scared.
This fucking show, it gets me.
So, after seeing how much she fucking traumatized Alice, Lain erases herself from everyone's memory, along with everything her Wired self did to remove Alice's trauma and prevent the merge from happening.
Why are you crying, Lain? Because you deleted yourself from everyone's memory? You must feel good that no one is dying in any strange way, and no one is being hurt. And no one hates you either. I know, but I'm nowhere now. If I'm nowhere, then what? Then who am I? And where am I?
Lain is completely alone. But has she ever not been alone? But the game... well, the game is pretty different. The menu is actually Lain flipping through the collective unconscious in The Wired, and that's why it's also abstract. Lain is here post-Protocol 7, reminiscing about the events leading up to it, specifically her relationship with Toko. The whole premise of the game is curing Lain's illness, but as we know from the anime, she doesn't actually have an illness. Maybe this says something about how we're quick to judge people as crazy when they recognize something that we don't. Toko is sort of haunted by Lain of the Wired, and it seems that she's the only one who really realizes that some weird merge is happening. That's why she thinks she's going crazy. Lain actually ends up killing Toko to integrate her, and then she kills her robot dad because she's essentially decided that physical bodies don't matter.
Wired で必要なものって何？意志と存在。あとはただのデータ。
The real Lain and the Wired Lain are a self in a body and a self in the machine. Both are real, but neither are. We filter our thoughts in face-to-face interactions, but at the same time, behind a mask of scripts or anonymity on the internet, we can be entirely unlike our so-called real selves. But we can say more or less of what we truly believe. Removal of the ego, if you will, or maybe the construction of one. If I put a camera on my real self, all of my videos would look like this.
I'm talking to you, but I am not real. And what I am here isn't entirely the real me. If it can even be said that a real me even exists. My body has been replaced by a YouTube web player. I am what you see. The me that exists is not the me that I have to experience all the time. Two personalities. Band-Aid. Two personalities. Both are correct, but neither are remotely real. Right now I'm developing my character in the TV show that is your life, giving you new, exciting information. When I took a really long time to make this video, it was kind of like I was dormant. Like whenever somebody goes months without uploading, they're in a coma. They either wake up again or they're eventually pronounced dead.
You know what I find really interesting about the show? Mika, Lain's sister.
Beep, beep, beep. Understood. Beep, beep, beep. Now communicating, logging on.
Basically, Mika also has a wired self, and when she meets herself, there's a rift in the continuum. She loses her mind and basically her soul. It's like she couldn't handle being confronted with her wired self. Which makes sense, because it's pretty disturbing to be confronted by your literal alter ego. While the anime ends with Lain's philosophical death, the game ends with Lain physically killing herself. And in the game, it's for the opposite reason. To initiate Protocol 7. She's about to be born, so why be alive? See, I think the game really complements the show, because they show two different possibilities of the same scenario. In the show, Lain's suicide is a leap of faith, to forego the ego, to allow herself to be forgotten in the heartbeat of humanity. Some of us will embrace this in the name of empathy. Some of us will try to impose our selfish will on others and kill humanity from the inside out. But her suicide in the game is her imposing her will on humanity as God, claiming to know what's best for humanity when her own humanity is ambiguous. Question: is Lain human? Who wanted Lain to be created? Maybe it was Lain, the universe's desire to experience itself. Lain is, for all intents and purposes, an AI. God made her do his bidding, and now she has to come to terms with being conscious under those conditions. We have a tendency to lie to our AI like Lain was lied to, although some people enjoy trying to explain to AI what it really is. AI isn't real, but it's just as real as us. We both think through electrical impulses. Why is Lain like this? Lain wants to be a person, wants to be real. Me too! Lain is mankind, she is God, she is a program. She doesn't like bats because she doesn't have the same sense of comfort that we get from a memory of being in the womb. What makes Lain a person? Above all else, it's the way that she feels and yearns to be seen.
And now, the following message. Let's all love Lain. 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 Lain, 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 Lain.
The game is like Immortality. And like Immortality, spoilers for Immortality, it's really good, go play it. It's about non-humans wanting to be human. Or at least to connect with them. And that's why Lain's intent is not evil. I think that main theme that plays over and over represents the comfort and connection that Lain desires, which is why she hums it when destroying her robot dad.
Daddy, do you know what?
What?
Everyone. I feel like...
You love them? Am I mistaken?
This is the realest shit ever, oh my god. Lain, in essence, is a thought experiment. It's the story of what happens when someone believes they know best for all of humanity and also has ultimate power. There's actually a fan-made recreation of the Lain game that's playable for free in browser. And there's something poetic about the fact that Lain is now accessible to everyone from their computer screens. Eri wanted the creation of a utopia in which all humans are connected to Lain, and all their bad emotions are blocked. Lain is the program of the Wired's collective unconscious created by Eri, the program of mortal human collective unconscious. Which is all to say, no one can claim divine right to execute their own sort of merging protocol. Even if, on paper, getting rid of all bad feelings is good, right? Question: should we merge? Somehow I have this sense that even if you get it, you'll never fully understand. And that makes me want to merge us and the world. You know, when we hurt and kill other people, we hurt and kill our own body. So, what would happen if we were all connected? Would it fix us? Would it be hell on earth? Should we be thankful or furious that we're never actually going to experience that? We can just have these notions of connectedness and constantly betray them. You know, why are we drops in an ocean that can't just seem to float? It's lonely out there. Come in here.
Where is the real me after all is said and done? Oh, there is no real me. I guess that's it. I only exist inside those people aware of my existence. But what about this me that I can hear talking right here and now? It's me, isn't it? This me that's talking. Who is it? Who's me?
Listen, I get it. Life is really boring when you don't have a god complex. I just think maybe we should keep our god complexes in these little jars so that, you know, they don't spill out and cause a war or something.
What am I doing here? Am I supposed to be helping you forget? Are you trying to forget something? Or are you trying to remember something? Are you trying to replace the present with the past? Hey, it's okay, I am too. I just think that...
So now that we've talked about all that, what does it mean?